Lisa Martinez stood in the center of the massive council chamber on Zerion Prime. The room stretched so far in every direction that she could barely see the walls. Thousands of alien beings filled the seats around her, their eyes focused on the single human woman standing alone at the speaking platform. The air felt thick and heavy, not just from the different atmospheric mixtures that each species needed, but from the weight of what was about to happen. The Zeltharian Chancellor rose from his crystal throne. His body looked like living glass, and when he spoke, his voice rang like wind chimes in a storm. Ambassador Martinez, you stand here today as the representative of humanity. Your species has been evaluated by this council for the past 50 years. We have watched your actions, studied your behavior, and analyzed your impact on galactic civilization. Lisa kept her hands steady at her sides. She had known this day would come. The signs had been there for months. Fewer trade agreements, delayed responses to human diplomatic messages, whispered conversations that stopped when humans entered the room. But she had hoped somehow that reason would prevail. The evidence is clear, the Chancellor continued. Humans are too aggressive for peaceful coexistence. You expand too quickly. You fight too readily. You ask too many questions and challenge too many established ways. Your species represents a threat to the stability we have maintained for over 3,000 years. From her left, the Vorthon delegate spoke up. Her blue skin rippled with patterns that showed her emotional state, and right now those patterns showed disgust. The border wars with the Cathani, the mining disputes in the Titan sector, the unauthorized research into quantum physics. Humanity cannot be trusted to follow galactic law. The Eldorian representative, a being so peaceful that his species had never known war, added his voice to the accusations. Human philosophy is incompatible with civilized thought. They believe in individual achievement over collective harmony. They prize competition over cooperation. Such thinking is dangerous to our way of life, Lisa finally spoke. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. Honored counselors, humanity has contributed greatly to this galaxy. Our doctors developed the cure for Quillen fever, saving millions of lives. Our engineers built the trade stations that connect your worlds. Our explorers mapped the dangerous routes through the Void Nebula, making safe travel possible for everyone. And in doing so, the Trilithian delegate interrupted, you proved our point. Humans always want to be first, to be the ones who solve problems, to be remembered as heroes. This need for recognition makes you unstable partners. The Chancellor raised his hand for silence. The decision has been made. Humanity has 30 standard years to withdraw all colonies, stations, ships, and personnel from space beyond your home. System of Sol. Any human presence outside that system after the deadline will be considered an act of war against the entire Galactic Council. Lisa felt the words hit her like physical blows. 30 years to abandon everything humanity had built among the stars. 30 years to give up the dream that had driven her species to reach beyond their single world. Honored Chancellor, surely we can find another solution? Humanity can change. We can learn to better fit within galactic society. The decision is final, the Chancellor replied. You have 30 years. Jake Morrison received the message while standing on the bridge of the research vessel Aurora's Dream. His ship was currently orbiting Kepler 442b, a planet where his team had spent the last 5 years studying unique plant life that could revolutionize agriculture throughout the galaxy. The communication array crackled with static as the transmission from Earth came through. All human vessels, stations, and colonies are ordered to return to Sol system immediately. By order of the Galactic Council, humanity has been exiled from galactic space. You have 30 years to comply with full withdrawal. The bridge fell silent. Dr. Rachel Stevens, the ship's xenobiologist, slowly set down the sample container she had been examining. Inside were seeds from plants that could grow in almost any soil, potentially ending hunger on dozens of worlds. 5 years of work, she whispered. 5 years of discoveries that could help so many people. Communications Officer Ben Hayes turned from his console. Sir, we're receiving similar messages from every human ship and station in the galaxy. The council vote was unanimous. Every species voted for our exile. Jake stared out at the planet below. In 5 years, his team had mapped every continent, cataloged thousands of species, and built research stations that were just beginning to unlock the planet's secrets. Now they would have to abandon it all. How long until we can begin evacuation procedures? The civilian transports can be here in 6 months, Hayes replied. But sir, what about the research? What about the agricultural stations on Series 2? What about the medical facilities on Proxima Station? We pack what we can and destroy the rest, Jake said quietly. We can't leave our technology behind for them to use. If they don't want us in their galaxy, they don't get to benefit from our work. Rachel stood up suddenly, her face flushed with anger. This is wrong. We've helped so many species. We've saved lives, explored dangerous regions they were afraid to enter, solved problems they couldn't handle themselves. And this is how they repay us? They're afraid of us, Jake replied. They've been afraid since the first human ship left Sol system. We move too fast for them. We adapt too quickly. We don't respect their traditions because we're too busy making new ones. All across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of human ships and stations. Captain Pete Davis of the cargo vessel Heavy Lifter sat in his quarters reading messages from alien friends expressing their sorrow at the Council's decision. Many of them had voted for the exile while privately disagreeing with it, afraid to stand against the majority. Commander Sarah Wilson of Deep Space Station, Alpha began the painful process of shutting down the facility that had served as a hub for exploration into the galaxy's outer rim. The station had been home to over 10,000 humans and several thousand aliens who had worked together in perfect harmony for 15 years. On New Terra, the largest human colony world, Governor Mike Foster addressed a population of 2 million people who had made their lives among the red stone canyons and crystal-clear lakes. We came to the stars to build something better, he told them. We're not giving up on that dream. We're just taking it home for a while. The great exodus began slowly, then picked up speed as human ingenuity turned to the massive logistical challenge of moving an entire interstellar civilization back to a single star system. Ships that had been designed for exploration were converted to carry families and equipment. Space stations were carefully disassembled to preserve valuable technology and materials. But something else was happening too. In the cargo holds and databanks of the returning ships, humanity was bringing home more than just people and equipment. They were bringing knowledge gained from 100 worlds, technology developed through cooperation with dozens of species, and most importantly, a burning sense of injustice that would fuel their development for decades to come. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 50 years had passed since the Great Exile, and Admiral Karen Phillips stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, watching the latest ships return from their patrol of the outer system. Through the massive windows she could see the transformation that isolation had brought to humanity. Where once there had been empty space around Mars, now stood the largest shipbuilding facility in known space. The orbital rings around Jupiter housed research laboratories that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. And everywhere, humans worked with a focus and determination that their scattered colonial period had never achieved. Admiral, incoming report from the Jupiter facility, announced Lieutenant Commander Ryan Taylor. His voice carried the crisp efficiency that had become standard among the new generation of humans born in exile. Dr. Carter's team has successfully tested the quantum fold drive. We can now travel distances in days that would take Council ships months to cover. Phillips nodded, unsurprised. Dr. Michelle Carter had been barely 30 when the exile began. Now at 80, she led humanity's greatest scientific revolution. Freed from the technology-sharing agreements that had limited human research, and driven by the knowledge that they stood alone against a hostile galaxy, human scientists had made breakthrough after breakthrough. What's the status on the stealth technology project? Phillips asked. Phase testing completed last week, Taylor replied. Our ships are now completely invisible to all known galactic sensor technology. The Council still uses the same detection methods they've used for centuries. They have no idea what we've developed. Phillips walked to the central display where a three-dimensional map showed the Sol system in perfect detail. Every asteroid had been mapped and cataloged. Every resource had been identified and claimed. Humanity had turned their prison into the most efficient and productive star system in the galaxy. And General Kane's report on military readiness? All training programs are ahead of schedule, Taylor said, pulling up new displays. The Defense Corps now numbers 50 million active personnel. Every human adult has completed basic military training. Our weapons technology is approximately 200 years ahead of anything the Council possesses. But the changes went deeper than technology and military might. Phillips remembered the chaotic, argumentative humanity of her youth, when human colonies had competed with each other almost as much as they cooperated. The exile had burned away that internal division. Faced with the knowledge that they were alone against the entire galaxy, humanity had united in ways that their prosperous colonial period had never achieved. Dr. Angela Ross, the elderly philosopher who had helped design humanity's new social structure, joined Phillips at the observation window. "The psychological profiles are remarkable," she said, gesturing toward the busy traffic of ships and workers outside. "Shared adversity has created a level of cooperation and purpose that we never achieved when times were good. Every human knows exactly why they're working so hard and exactly what they're working toward." "And what are we working toward?" Phillips asked, though she knew the answer. "Justice," Ross replied simply. "The galaxy threw us out because they were afraid of what we might become. Now we're going to show them what we actually became." Captain Steve Johnson docked his stealth ship Silent Runner at the station after another reconnaissance mission to the galaxy beyond. His reports had become increasingly interesting over the years. "Admiral, the situation out there continues to deteriorate. The Cathani and Vorthan almost went to war over mining rights in the Sigma sector. Without human mediators, they can't resolve their disputes peacefully." Phillips reviewed Johnson's data on her personal tablet. Trade between council species had dropped by 40% since the exile. Several worlds had suffered ecological disasters that human terraforming expertise could have prevented. The sophisticated interstellar economy that had developed during humanity's presence was slowly collapsing. "They're discovering the true cost of our absence," she said. "How many species are questioning the exile decision?" "At least 6 major civilizations have filed formal complaints with the Council," Johnson reported. "The Eldorians are particularly vocal about it. Apparently, their philosophy of collective harmony doesn't work as well when there's no one around to mediate between collective groups." Dr. Carter arrived in the command center, her hair now completely white but her mind as sharp as ever. Behind her walked a team of younger scientists carrying data tablets and looking excited. "Admiral, we're ready for the next phase. The dimensional fold technology is stable. We can now create pocket universes large enough to house entire planets." "And the timeline for Operation Silence?" Phillips asked. "We can begin whenever you give the order," Carter replied. "The galaxy wanted to see what civilization looked like without humanity. We're going to give them exactly what they asked for." President Helen Foster's image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from Earth where the Global Assembly had just concluded its session. "Citizens of humanity, 50 years ago the galaxy told us we were too dangerous to exist among civilized species. They were wrong about our nature, but they were right about our potential. We have spent these decades proving that humans can achieve anything when we work together toward a common goal." The speech was being broadcast to every human facility in the system. On Luna, where massive manufacturing complexes produced ships and equipment at rates that defied galactic understanding. On the asteroid belt mining stations, where human workers extracted resources with efficiency that made pre-exile operations look primitive. On the outer planet research facilities where teams of scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge in every field. The galaxy believed they were protecting themselves from human aggression, Foster continued. They failed to understand that human strength comes not from aggression, but from our refusal to accept limitations. When they limited our space, we expanded our capabilities. When they limited our resources, we learned to do more with less. When they limited our knowledge, we discovered new forms of science they never imagined. General Peter Kane stood in the main training facility on Ganymede, watching the latest group of graduates complete their advanced combat certification. These weren't the chaotic, individualistic human soldiers of the colonial period. These were disciplined, coordinated, and trained to a level that made elite galactic forces look like amateur militia. "Sir," his aide Major Lisa Brooks approached with the latest intelligence reports. "Captain Johnson's reconnaissance indicates that several council species are beginning to develop internal conflicts they can't resolve. Without human trade networks, their economies are becoming unstable." Kane reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Phase 1 of Operation Silence is already working, and we haven't even begun active operations. Simple human absence is enough to destabilize their civilization. "Are we really going to go through with Phase 2? Brooks asked. "Actually taking galactic populations?" "We're not taking them," Kane corrected. "We're relocating them for their own safety. The galaxy is about to become a very dangerous place. When civilization collapses, someone needs to protect the innocent civilians caught in the middle. Phillips received the final authorization from Earth later that day. Operation Silence was approved for immediate implementation. Humanity would spend the next 30 years systematically demonstrating to the galaxy what their absence truly meant, not through war or destruction, but through strategic removal of the stability that human presence had provided. They wanted a galaxy without humanity, she announced to her senior staff. Now they're going to experience exactly what that means. And when they're ready to apologize for their mistake, we'll be waiting to accept their surrender. The galaxy had demanded humanity's exile because they feared human potential. High Counselor Zethkalar paced through his crystal chambers on Zerion Prime, his translucent body flickering with patterns of deep concern. The reports scattered across his desk painted a picture that defied all understanding. In the past 2 years, 17 ships had vanished without trace. Not destroyed, not captured, simply gone as if they had never existed. "Sir," his aide Velthar announced from the doorway, "we have another incident. The research vessel Quantum Explorer disappeared 3 hours ago while investigating the Nebula 7 system. The last transmission was routine status update." Then nothing. Zethkalar examined the data on his personal screen. The ship had been there, then it wasn't. No distress signal, no debris, no energy signatures indicating destruction. The vessel and its crew of 200 scientists had simply ceased to exist. "What does our analysis team suggest?" "They have no explanation," Velthar replied, his own crystal form showing signs of stress. "The energy readings at the disappearance site show technology that appears to be centuries ahead of anything in our databases. But there are no known species capable of such advancement." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Commander Ilex of the Vorthon Defense Fleet stood before an emergency assembly of her species' leadership, her blue skin showing the deep purple patterns that indicated fear and confusion. "The situation has escalated beyond isolated incidents. We have now lost contact with entire systems. The Nexus colonies, home to 3 billion Eldorians, went silent last week. Our investigation fleet found empty cities, abandoned ships, but no bodies and no signs of struggle." The Vorthon High Command stared at her in disbelief. 3 billion people do not simply vanish," declared War Chief Thexmorak. "What did our investigators find?" "That's just it, sir. They found everything except the people. Food still on tables, vehicles parked in streets, personal belongings untouched. It was as if the entire population simply stepped outside and never came back." Dr. Kethmore, the galaxy's leading scientist and a Trilithian known for his logical mind, presented his findings to a joint council session. His tentacles moved nervously as he spoke, betraying his usual calm demeanor. "The energy signatures we're detecting at these sites indicate the use of dimensional manipulation technology. Someone is folding space-time itself, creating what appear to be stable pocket dimensions. The mathematics involved are so advanced that our computers cannot even model the basic equations." The assembled representatives sat in stunned silence. The peaceful Quillan delegation huddled together, their large eyes wide with fear. The militaristic Keithani shifted uncomfortably, their warrior culture offering no solution to an enemy they couldn't identify or fight. "Could this be some unknown species from beyond our explored space?" asked the Eldorian representative, though his voice held little hope. "Possible, but unlikely," Dr. Kethmore replied. "The technology being used shows signs of development, based on our own scientific foundations, but advanced far beyond anything we've achieved. It's as if someone took our knowledge and had centuries to perfect it." Ambassador Threlnine of the Eldorians spoke what many were thinking, but none dared say. "Could this somehow be connected to the humans? Our intelligence confirmed they remain confined to their system, but the timing is suspicious." "Impossible," declared the Zeltarian Chancellor firmly. "Our monitoring stations would detect any human ships leaving Sol system. They lack the technology for interstellar travel without our detection networks identifying them. What the Council didn't know was that their monitoring stations had been compromised years ago. In the shadow of Saturn's rings, Admiral Phillips reviewed the latest operation reports while standing in the command center of humanity's most advanced vessel, the invisible ship Prometheus Rising. Around her, officers from Earth's finest military academies coordinated operations that spanned half the galaxy. "Ghost Protocol is proceeding ahead of schedule," she announced to her senior staff. "We have successfully relocated 47 systems without detection. The galactic population believes their people are disappearing, but every relocated civilian is safe and comfortable in the pocket dimensions we've created. Captain Johnson, now commanding an entire fleet of stealth vessels, reported from his flagship Silent Thunder. Admiral, the psychological impact is exactly what we calculated. Fear of the unknown is more powerful than any weapon. Council species are withdrawing from deep space, abandoning trade routes, and fortifying their home systems against an enemy they can't see or understand. Dr. Carter, now ancient but still brilliant, appeared on the communication screen from her laboratory. The dimensional fold technology continues to perform flawlessly. We can relocate entire planetary populations in a matter of hours. The pocket dimensions provide perfect living conditions, and the relocated populations are adapting well to their temporary homes. Temporary? Asked General Kane, joining the conference from his command ship. Of course, Carter replied with a smile. When this is over, everyone goes home. We're not conquerors. We're demonstrating a point. Captain Lisa Brooks, daughter of the former ambassador, commanded the task force that had relocated the Nexus system. Her report was typical of the efficiency that humanity had achieved. Operation was completed in 6 hours. 3 billion Eldorians safely transferred to Pocket Dimension 7, along with essential infrastructure and cultural artifacts. To outside observers, the system appears completely abandoned. The technology was pure human innovation, born from the combination of advanced physics and the desperate creativity that exile had fostered. Dimensional folding allowed entire populations to be moved to artificially created space-time bubbles where they could live normal lives while remaining completely hidden from the galaxy. The beautiful part, explained Dr. Carter to a gathering of human scientists, is that we're not harming anyone. Every relocated person is safer than they were before. We're providing perfect climate, unlimited resources, and protection from the chaos that's about to consume galactic civilization. But they don't know that, observed Captain Brooks. To the galaxy, these people have simply vanished. Exactly, Phillips replied. The Council wanted to see what the galaxy looked like without humanity. We're showing them by systematically removing the stability that our presence provided, not through destruction, but through strategic absence. As galactic civilization crumbled under the weight of inexplicable disappearances and growing paranoia, humanity watched from the shadows. They had learned patience during their exile, and now they were teaching the galaxy the true meaning of fear. Not fear of death or destruction, but fear of the unknown and the helpless feeling of facing an enemy that couldn't be fought. The Cathani increased their military patrols but found nothing to fight. The Vorthan developed increasingly complex sensor networks but detected no threats. The peaceful species retreated to their homeworlds and waited for answers that never came. Meanwhile, humans moved through space like ghosts, invisible to all detection, relocating populations with surgical precision. Each operation was carefully planned to minimize psychological trauma for the relocated people, while maximizing psychological impact on the observers. They demanded a galaxy without humanity, Phillips observed as she watched another successful relocation operation conclude. They're about to learn what that actually means, and when they're ready to admit their mistake, we'll be here to discuss the terms of their surrender. The galaxy had thought they were removing a dangerous element from their civilization. Instead, they had created a threat beyond their worst nightmares, an enemy that could strike anywhere while remaining completely invisible, an adversary that didn't destroy but simply made things disappear. And the terrifying part was that humanity was just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened amid chaos that would have been unimaginable just 5 years earlier. Half the galaxy's population had mysteriously vanished. Trade networks had collapsed and panic ruled what remained of civilized space. Chancellor Kextalon of the Trilithians called the session to order with tentacles that trembled from exhaustion and stress. Fellow beings, he began, his voice carrying the weight of desperation. We face the complete collapse of everything our ancestors built over 3,000 years. Our greatest minds cannot explain what is happening. Our most advanced fleets find nothing to fight. Our people live in terror of an enemy we cannot see, cannot understand, and cannot defeat. The assembled representatives looked nothing like the confident, proud beings who had voted for humanity's exile 80 years earlier. The Quillan delegation huddled together in obvious fear. The Cathani warriors sat slumped in defeat, their military might useless against an invisible foe. Even the crystalline Zeltharians showed stress fractures in their normally perfect forms. High Counselor Zethkalar rose slowly from his seat. I speak words that my people would have considered treason just months ago. I believe we made a catastrophic error 80 years past. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Several delegates shouted objections, but Zethkalar continued. We exiled humanity because we feared their potential for disruption. In doing so, we may have created the very threat we sought to avoid. You're suggesting the humans are responsible for the disappearances? Asked the Vorthon representative, her skin patterns showing disbelief. Our monitoring stations confirm they remain confined to Sol system. Do they? Zethkalar challenged. When did we last verify those monitoring stations were functioning correctly? When did we last send ships to physically confirm human compliance with the exile? An uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. The truth was that the Council had been content to assume their monitoring technology was working correctly. Nobody had wanted to risk actual contact with the exiled humans. Admiral Thex Voran of the Cathani military stood reluctantly. My species has historical records of human conflict resolution capabilities. Before the exile, humans mediated disputes that we could not resolve through force. Their merchant vessels handled cargo loads that required multiple ships of our design. Perhaps their contribution to galactic stability was greater than we acknowledged. Dr. Nelvira of the scientific community added her voice. Human medical research saved millions of Quillan lives before the exile. Their agricultural techniques fed entire star systems. Their exploration opened regions of space we were afraid to enter. We may have underestimated their value to our civilization. The debate continued for 3 days. Pride warred with desperation, as representatives struggled with the possibility that their greatest decision had been their greatest mistake. The discussions were interrupted repeatedly by reports of new disappearances, each one driving home the urgency of their situation. Finally, Chancellor Kextalon made the decision that would change galactic history. We will send a formal communication to Sol System. We will request humanity's return to galactic civilization. The message took weeks to compose, with every species contributing to what amounted to a galactic apology. When it was finally transmitted, the entire council waited with growing anxiety for humanity's response. Days passed in silence, then weeks. Some began to fear that humanity had vanished along with everyone else. The reply came in a form that shocked the council to its core. Admiral Karen Phillips materialized in the center of the council chamber, her image projected through technology that made several representatives gasp in amazement. The projection was perfect, more detailed than anything in the council's databases, and behind her they could see what appeared to be a massive command center, filled with humans operating incomprehensible technology. Honored counselors, Phillips began, her voice calm and controlled. We received your message. Humanity is touched by your invitation to return to galactic society. Chancellor Kextalon leaned forward eagerly. Admiral Phillips, we have reconsidered our previous position. The galaxy has faced unprecedented challenges, and we believe humanity's presence could help restore stability. Phillips smiled, and somehow that expression managed to be both reassuring and terrifying. The galaxy you're inviting us to return to is quite different from the one we left. In our absence, you have experienced what galactic civilization looks like without human participation. Admiral, interrupted High Counselor Zethkalar, are you implying that humanity is responsible for the disappearances? We are responsible for the safety of those who have disappeared, Phillips replied matter-of-factly. Every missing population is currently residing in dimensional spaces of our creation, where they are safe, comfortable, and well cared for. They are waiting for galactic civilization to stabilize so they can return home safely. The revelation sent shockwaves through the chamber. Humanity had not only survived their exile but had transcended every limitation the Council thought they understood. The technology being displayed was centuries beyond anything in galactic databases. You relocated entire populations? Whispered Dr. Nelvira. Billions of people? 47 star systems and counting, Phillips confirmed. All residents are safe and content. Many have actually requested to remain in the pocket dimensions permanently, as the living conditions are superior to what they experienced before. Chancellor Kextalon struggled to comprehend what he was hearing. Why? Why relocate them instead of simply destroying or conquering? Because we're not the aggressive monsters you believed us to be, Phillips replied. We don't destroy. We protect. We don't conquer. We improve. You asked us to leave so you could see what galactic civilization looked like without humans. We're showing you exactly that. But the fear, the chaos, the collapse of everything we built, protested the Eldorian representative, is the natural result of removing a stabilizing force from a complex system, Phillips explained patiently. Humans didn't just live in your galaxy. We connected it. We mediated your disputes, carried your trade, explored your dangerous regions, and solved your seemingly impossible problems. When you removed us, you removed the foundation that held everything together. The council sat in stunned silence as the implications hit them. They hadn't just exiled a troublesome species. They had removed the keystone that kept galactic civilization functioning. What are your terms for returning? Asked Zethkalar, his voice barely above a whisper. Philip's expression became serious. Equal representation in council decisions, recognition of human sovereignty over territories we claim, and most importantly, acknowledgement that the exile was a mistake that will never be repeated against humanity or any other species. And if we refuse? Asked a Kethani delegate. Then we continue our current operations, Phillips replied calmly. The pocket dimensions are perfectly comfortable. The relocated populations are happy and safe. Eventually, galactic civilization will complete its collapse, and we'll relocate the survivors to ensure their well-being. Either way, innocent people are protected. The vote was called immediately. For the first time in galactic history, a council decision was unanimous. Every species, every delegate, every representative voted yes. Welcome back to galactic civilization, Chancellor Kextalan announced formally. We have missed you more than we ever imagined possible, Phillips nodded graciously. We're looking forward to working together again. This time, as true partners rather than tolerated guests. As her image faded, the council began the long process of rebuilding everything they had destroyed through fear and prejudice. But they now understood something that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity hadn't returned as the same species that had been exiled. They had returned as something far more powerful and far more necessary than anyone had imagined possible. The galaxy had demanded their absence and received exactly what they asked for. Now they would discover what galactic civilization could become with humanity as true partners, rather than reluctant members. 5 years after humanity's return, President Jack Wilson stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new galactic capital that orbited in the space between 3 star systems. The massive structure represented everything the galaxy could achieve when fear was replaced by cooperation. Ships from dozens of species moved in perfect coordination around the station, their different designs creating a beautiful pattern against the stars. Sir, the final integration report, announced Secretary Linda Foster, approaching with a data tablet that showed statistics that would have seemed impossible just years earlier. All relocated populations have been successfully returned to their home systems. The dimensional fold technology has been shared with appropriate council oversight. Human medical teams have established clinics on 63 worlds, and our agricultural programs have ended food shortages on 18 systems. Wilson nodded as he reviewed the numbers. The return process had been as carefully planned as the relocations themselves. Each population had been given the choice to return immediately, or remain in the pocket dimensions while their home systems were upgraded with human technology. Many had chosen to stay until the improvements were complete. How are the former council members adapting to the new government structure? Wilson asked. Better than expected, Foster replied. Having humans as equal partners rather than subordinate members has actually reduced conflicts between species. Our mediation techniques have prevented 12 potential wars and resolved over 300 trade disputes. Through the massive viewport, Wilson watched a human vessel dock alongside a Vorthon research ship. The 2 crews would be working together to explore a newly discovered star system, their combined capabilities far exceeding what either species could achieve alone. Such cooperation would have been impossible under the old council system. Dr. Catherine Moore, the galaxy's leading expert on dimensional physics, briefed a mixed-species team of scientists in the station's main laboratory. The quantum fold drive has revolutionized galactic travel, she explained to her eager audience. Journey times have been reduced by 90% across all major trade routes. The economic benefits alone have increased galactic prosperity beyond all previous records. The students included young beings from every council species, all learning together in the new integrated education system that humanity had helped design. Competition had been replaced by collaboration, and the results were remarkable. Ambassador Chris Davis addressed the reformed Galactic Council from the central podium that had once been used to exile his species. "The philosophy that guides our new civilization is simple," he told the assembled representatives. "Fear divides us. Courage unites us. When we work together, every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth." The council chamber itself had been redesigned to reflect the new reality. Instead of species-specific sections that emphasized differences, the seating was integrated to encourage interaction between representatives. Humans didn't dominate the discussions, but rather facilitated them, using their natural diplomatic abilities to help other species find common ground. High Counselor Zeth Kalar, now one of humanity's closest allies, often reflected on the transformation. "We thought we were protecting the galaxy from human aggression," he confided to Wilson during a private meeting. "We never realized we were protecting humanity from our own limitations. Your species needed the challenge of exile to reach their full potential." The changes went far beyond politics and economics. Captain Amanda Kelly commanded the Joint Species Exploration vessel New Horizon as it pushed into previously unknown regions of space. Her crew represented the best of galactic cooperation, with humans working alongside beings from every council species in perfect harmony. "Captain," her Quillen science officer reported excitedly, "we're receiving structured signals from what appears to be another galaxy entirely. The mathematical progressions suggest highly advanced intelligence." Kelly smiled as she authorized the response protocols. Where once first contact with unknown species had been a source of fear and territorial concern, it was now an opportunity for expansion and growth. The galaxy had learned to approach the unknown with curiosity rather than suspicion. General Susan Carter, daughter of the legendary Dr. Michelle Carter, oversaw the combined defense force that protected all galactic citizens equally. "Our mission is protection, not conquest," she regularly told new recruits from all species. "We defend the innocent, preserve the peace, and ensure that fear never again drives civilized beings to make the mistakes of the past." The defense force itself was revolutionary. Instead of each species maintaining separate militaries that viewed each other with suspicion, the combined force created bonds of trust and mutual respect that made conflict between member species impossible. Dr. Eric Thompson, the galaxy's foremost historian, documented the transformation in his widely read texts. "Humanity's exile and return represents the single most important event in galactic history," he wrote. "Not because humans conquered or dominated, but because they proved that a species could grow beyond its perceived limitations when properly motivated." His historical analysis had become required reading throughout the galaxy. Young beings studied the exile period to understand how fear and prejudice could lead to catastrophic decisions, and how redemption was always possible through courage and cooperation. President Wilson received regular reports from exploration teams pushing the boundaries of known space. The galaxy that had once feared expansion now embraced it eagerly. Human ships worked alongside alien vessels to map new regions, establish peaceful contact with unknown species, and spread the cooperative model that had transformed their civilization. "Sir," Captain Kelly reported during her latest briefing, "the beings from the Andromeda Galaxy have accepted our invitation for formal diplomatic contact. They're interested in establishing trade and cultural exchange agreements." "And their technology level?" Wilson asked. "Roughly equivalent to our own," Kelly replied, "but their social structure is completely different. This could be an opportunity to learn new approaches to civilization itself." Such news would have terrified the old council, but the new galactic civilization welcomed it as an opportunity. The lessons learned from humanity's exile had transformed an insular, fearful society into one that embraced growth and change. The economic statistics were equally impressive. Trade between species had increased by 400% since humanity's return. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs in every field from medicine to engineering. Cultural exchange programs had created understanding between species that had previously viewed each other with suspicion. But perhaps the most significant change was in humanity itself. The scattered competitive species that had first ventured into space had evolved into natural leaders and facilitators. Their exile had taught them patience, cooperation, and the true value of diversity. We learned something important during our years alone, Wilson explained to a gathering of young humans preparing for their first assignments among alien species. Strength without wisdom is just destruction waiting to happen. Power without compassion is tyranny. We return to the galaxy not as conquerors but as partners. Not as leaders but as facilitators of everyone's potential. As the New Horizon prepared to make formal contact with the Andromedan civilization, Wilson reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The Council had demanded a galaxy without humanity because they feared what humans might become. In trying to prevent that future, they had created something far greater than anyone had imagined possible. The galaxy with humanity had become a civilization that embraced growth over stagnation, cooperation over competition, and hope over fear. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion now worked together toward common goals. Technologies that had once been hoarded were freely shared for everyone's benefit. And at the center of it all, humanity served not as rulers or saviors, but as the bridge that connected all intelligent life in the pursuit of something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter. As if the universe itself approved of what they had built together, the Council had demanded a galaxy without humanity, and in the end they had been right to fear human potential. But they had been wrong about what that potential would become. Instead of the destroyers they had feared, humanity had become the builders of a new kind of civilization, one where every species could reach their full potential through cooperation and mutual respect. The exile was over. The real journey was just beginning.